If you love stories of overcoming revenge and twists and turns that life brings, then this channel is for you. Here, each story will keep you hooked from beginning to end. So, subscribe now, activate the bell, leave your like, and come with me. Because today's story is simply unmissable. Isabella had always believed in love. At 32, she thought she had finally found her happily ever after. She and Leonardo had been together for 7 years, and he had always been everything she had dreamed. Of charismatic, kind, and apparently loyal. They lived in a beautiful apartment downtown, the result of their hard work and joint efforts. While Isabella dedicated her days to her career as an architect, Leonardo continued with his job as a businessman in the technology sector. But like a sandcastle about to be swallowed by the tide, everything was about to crumble. For weeks, she had been noticing his distancing himself, ignored messages, empty apologies, cancelled dates. The butterflies in her stomach that had once been passion were now anxiety and fear. Isabella had always believed in love. At 32, she thought she had finally found her happily ever after. She and Leonardo had been together for 7 years, and he had always been everything she had dreamed of. Charismatic, kind, and apparently loyal. They lived in a beautiful apartment downtown, the result of their hard work and joint efforts. While Isabella dedicated her days to her career as an architect, Leonardo continued with his job as a businessman in the technology sector. But like a sandcastle about to be swallowed by the tide, everything was about to crumble. For weeks, she had been noticing his distancing himself, ignored messages, empty apologies, cancelled dates. The butterflies in her stomach that had once been passion were now anxiety and fear. Overcome with despair, she didn't know whether to cry, scream, or simply pretend that it wasn't real. The ground seemed to disappear. Isabella stared at the screen as if she could somehow make those words disappear, but no. The pain was real, and as if that weren't enough, among the messages she found photos of them together. Dinners, trips, moments when Leonardo said he was busy, traveling for work. She was being made a fool of. And at the height of her shock, she heard the sound of the door opening. Leonardo had arrived. She quickly wiped away her tears, took a deep breath, and with a frightening calm, sat on the sofa. The confrontation was inevitable. Leonardo walked in smiling, as if nothing was happening. "Honey, I'm home. What's that look on your face?" he asked, dropping his backpack on the floor. Isabella just pointed to the laptop open on the table. His smile disappeared instantly. Silence filled the room, dense, suffocating. "Would you like to explain what this is?" His voice sounded cold, sharp. Leonardo tried to stammer out some excuse, but his words were jumbled together. "It's not what you think," he said. The cliché phrase made Isabella laugh, a bitter laugh full of pain and disbelief. "No." "Then explain it to me. Because in the photos you two look really close," he replied, standing firm, even though inside he was breaking into 1,000 pieces. His speech was pathetic. He said she was wonderful, that he never wanted to hurt her, but that he felt lost. That the routine, the work, the responsibilities, that he needed to feel alive again. "And you decided to do that by cheating on me?" she snapped. He tried to justify himself, saying it was a mistake, that he didn't know how he got to this point, that he felt suffocated. Suffocated. She, who had always been by his side, supporting, caring, loving. And now she was the one suffocating from the pain, the disappointment, the humiliation. He swore he would break up with Julia, that he still loved her, that they could get through this together. But at that moment, something inside Isabella broke completely. "You don't understand, Leonardo. It's not about you choosing between her and me. It's about me not wanting to be with someone capable of betraying me like that anymore. she replied, with a firmness that she didn't even know she had. Leonardo turned pale. He tried to get closer, to hold her, but she backed away. "Don't touch me. Get out of my house, now." He tried to resist, saying that they needed to talk. But she, between tears and courage, opened the door and pointed. "Get out, before I lose the little respect I still have for you." For the first time, she realized that she wasn't the one being left. She was the one choosing not to accept crumbs. That night, Isabella broke down. She cried until she had no more strength. She felt empty, betrayed, humiliated. She thought about everything she had built, everything she had sacrificed for that relationship. The promises, the plans, the dreams. Everything turned to dust. In the following days, she oscillated between deep sadness and anger. She even thought about calling Julia, about confronting her. But she realized that the betrayal came from him, not her. The real choice was made by Leonardo, and he chose to destroy everything. Friends tried to support her, her family reached out, but as much as everyone wanted to help her, the battle she faced was internal. It was with herself. Isabella decided to get away from everything. She took a leave of absence from work, blocked Leonardo from all social media, and went to spend some time at her sister's house in the countryside. She needed to breathe, think, and rebuild herself. There, surrounded by nature, silence, and the unconditional love of her family, she began to reflect. How many times had she put herself aside in that relationship? How many dreams had she postponed? How many times had she failed to prioritize herself? The realization began to sink in like an avalanche. The love she should have dedicated to herself, she had instead placed on someone she didn't know how to value. And for the first time, she looked in the mirror and didn't recognize herself, but she knew that this had to change. Little by little, Isabella began to rebuild herself. She started going to therapy and resumed forgotten hobbies, such as painting and running. She began to take better care of herself, both physically and emotionally. She realized that she didn't need to prove her worth to anyone, that her life couldn't revolve around someone else. She began to study personal development, read books, and attended lectures. And, in the midst of this process, she discovered a strength she never imagined she had. What had once been pain was now turning into learning. She understood that she was not responsible for Leonardo's betrayal, and that yes, she deserved much more. Months passed. Isabella returned to the city, but she came back different, stronger, more confident, more in control of herself. When she entered the apartment she had previously shared with Leonardo, she no longer felt pain or longing. She felt pride, proud of the woman she was becoming. She made changes, redecorated, threw away everything that reminded her of that past. And, in the midst of this new phase, opportunities began to arise. She was invited to lead a gigantic project at an international company. Her talent, which had always been there, was finally recognized, now by her and by the world. And as life has its whims, at a business meeting, Isabella met someone who surprised her. Gabriel. Unlike Leonardo, he was kind, without being forced, interested without being invasive. Someone who didn't seek to fill her, but rather to add to her. But unlike before, Isabella was now not willing to dive headfirst into a relationship. She learned that her priority would always be herself. Even so, she couldn't ignore the fact that perhaps love could exist, as long as she didn't have to sacrifice herself for it. And of course, like every predictable man, Leonardo reappeared. He called, sent messages, tried to get closer. He said he was sorry, that he had made the biggest mistake of his life, that he realized that no one would ever love him like she did. But this time, it was Isabella who smiled. Not a sad smile, not an ironic smile, a smile of someone who had won. She looked at that flashing screen, and for the first time she felt nothing. Neither anger, nor pain, nor love, just indifference. And it was this indifference that sealed her liberation. Leonardo insisted. He even showed up in front of the apartment, asking for a chance. He said he had left Julia, that he was willing to do anything. But at that moment, Isabella no longer needed answers. She looked him in the eyes and said, "You don't understand, Leo. You didn't lose me when you cheated on me. You lost me the day I realized I deserve much more than this." And with that sentence, she closed the door. This time not only to the house, but to his life. And by doing so, she opened the doors to something much greater, her own freedom. Now Isabella is a woman reborn. Her career took off. She became a speaker, helping other women not to accept less than they deserve. Her story, which began marked by pain, is now an example of overcoming, self-love and transformation. And yes, Gabriel was there, by her side, as a partner, as a friend, as someone who understood that she didn't need to be saved, because she had already saved herself. Because she learned that the most important love there is the one we feel for ourselves. And so between falls and new beginnings, Isabella discovered that the biggest disappointment of her life was also the biggest gift in disguise, because it was through her that she found the best version of herself. And if someone asks her if she regrets having loved, she will say no, because loving was never the problem. The problem was forgetting to love herself, but that she will never forget.